The series finale of The Boys just came out, and here are my thoughts. I saw a lot of leaks about this episode, and a lot of them I'm going to say were very underwhelming and made the whole entire show seem kind of pointless. And after watching this series finale, yeah, I would completely agree and say that that was accurate. I feel like the best words to summarize this finale are anticlimactic and just kind of disappointing. And before I start ripping into this finale, let me at least tell you guys the things that I liked about it. The one thing I liked about this episode was Butcher's death. I thought Huey killing Butcher was the way to end it, because that's how you end the show. That's how the show is supposed to be ended from the very beginning. That's how the comics end. Huey killing Butcher is the most important part of this show. That is the core of the show. It is Huey and Butcher's relationship. That is at the center of the show. And you know what? At the end, while I did feel like the rest of the episode was disappointing, this, I think they did well. But the rest of the episode was complete garbage. I mean, first of all, Homelander's death was just so ridiculous. I personally feel like them having Homelander pleading to Butcher, and people will be like, oh, well, it's because deep down he's a coward. Sure, yes, he's a coward, but this makes Homelander just not scary. Eric Kripke said in an interview that he's afraid that people will retroactively judge the previous seasons of The Boys because of the finale. And you know what, dude? Yes, I'm going to totally do that, because now Homelander no longer seems scary, no longer seems tough. He just seems like a giant baby, and I know he always was a giant baby. But I can no longer look at Homelander and be like, yep, this is the guy. And you know what? Maybe that was their point. Maybe that was their whole thing. My whole thing is that they've built up Homelander. They built up this season to be a giant showdown, and in the end, it just was kind of easy. Butcher kind of smoked Homelander. Even when they both had powers, he was holding his own. The Deep's death was also extremely disappointing. Starlight saying to the Deep, oh, you have to take responsibility for the first time in your life. That's what his whole arc in season 1 and 2 was about, was taking responsibility for his crappy actions, but the writers don't watch their show, so whatever. Allfather's death, completely disappointing. I mean, come on, really? A ball gag? That's how he's gonna die? This final battle was just so easy. We were promised shock and awe. I'm pretty sure the name of this episode is Shock and Awe, but we got none of that. This fight was totally easy. They stroll into the White House, they handle their business, and they leave. I mean, come on, guys. This is really how you're going to end it? This could have been one episode. They could have done this at the beginning of the season. Like, straight up, they could have done this at the beginning of the season. But do you know what my personal biggest gripe with this season is? And this might be my biggest gripe with the entire show. The issue with this series finale is that none of this fucking matters because Vought is still intact. I've said this a million times in previous videos, but Vought is the bad guy of the show. Stan Edgar is in charge of Vought again. Butcher's right. They are just going to make another Homelander, and sure, the Bureau of Superhuman Affairs can counter them, but Vought has so much money because Vought as an institution is corrupt. The show was always a critique about capitalism and a critique about these billion-dollar companies, and the core of the message was, you don't go after Homelander, you don't go after the one guy, you have to take down the entire company. And even with Homelander dead, Vought is still around, Vought can still make money, Vought can still be evil. I mean, come on guys, you could say, well, Stan Edgar's gonna reinvent the company. All he cares about is making money. All Stan Edgar cares about is making money. So really, Homelander's death and all of the things that happened in the season of The Boys and in the series of The Boys is completely pointless because the corrupt institution is still around, which to me is the biggest letdown because there's never going to be a satisfying ending to this series while Vought is around. And I think the writers really lost track of that. I really don't know what else to say about this series finale. It was extremely disappointing. I don't know. I don't know. What did you guys think? Did you guys like it? Did you guys dislike it? Because that's just my take.